What if one of the most famous unsolved murder cases in American history had a detective who could have actually caught the killer? Not just any detective. A detective famous for solving impossible cases. A man who could look at a crime scene, connect tiny details, and identify the person responsible when everyone else was completely lost. His name? L, the legendary detective from Death Note. And today, we're asking a strange but fascinating question. Could L have caught the Zodiac Killer? The Zodiac Killer terrorized Northern California in the late 1960s. He attacked young couples, sent cryptic letters to newspapers, and claimed responsibility for murders that investigators struggled to connect. But what made the case truly terrifying wasn't just the violence. It was the killer's obsession with being known. He didn't simply want to kill. He wanted to challenge the police. He wanted the public to know he was smarter than them. And that might be exactly where L would have started. The Zodiac case became public in December 1968 after a young couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were attacked near Vallejo, California. Both were killed. At first, there was nothing obviously connecting the crime to a larger pattern. Then, months later, another attack happened. In July 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were shot while sitting inside a car. Ferrin died. Mageau survived. And this time, investigators had something extremely valuable: a living victim. Mageau described the attack and the circumstances surrounding it. But the biggest breakthrough came shortly afterward. A man called police and claimed responsibility for both attacks. Then he did something even more bizarre. He contacted newspapers. The killer demanded that his letters be published. And inside those letters were details that suggested the writer really did know information about the crimes. This is where L becomes interesting, because L doesn't simply ask, who committed the murder? He asks, why does the killer want us to believe what he wants us to believe? The Zodiac Killer wasn't behaving like someone simply trying to disappear. He was creating a character. He used the name Zodiac. He developed a symbol. He sent letters. He sent cryptograms. And he repeatedly challenged investigators to identify him. From L's perspective, that behavior would be extremely important. Because every time the Zodiac contacted authorities, he was taking a risk. Every letter created another opportunity for investigators to study him. His vocabulary, his spelling, his sentence structure, his obsession with certain subjects, even the way he described himself. L would probably treat the letters almost like a psychological fingerprint. Not because handwriting or language can magically reveal someone's identity, but because patterns can reveal behavior. And the Zodiac created a lot of patterns. Then came one of the most famous elements of the case. The Zodiac sent a cryptogram containing 340 characters. For decades, nobody could conclusively determine what it said. Imagine giving that problem to L. He wouldn't necessarily start by trying random combinations. He'd ask a more important question. What does the killer actually want from this cipher? Is it truly hiding his identity? Is it designed to waste investigators' time? Is the message deliberately constructed to make him appear more intelligent than he really is? That's important because the Zodiac wasn't only committing crimes, he was controlling the narrative surrounding them. And L would understand that. Eventually, decades later, the 340-character cipher was solved by a team of private citizens. The decoded message contained disturbing statements and references to the killer's desire for attention. But crucially, it did not reveal his identity. And that tells us something. The Zodiac may have been less interested in giving investigators a real path to his identity than in making them chase him. Here's where L might have had an advantage. The Zodiac case involved multiple crime scenes, different victims, different locations, different circumstances. And investigators had to determine which crimes were actually committed by the same person. That's difficult, because one of the biggest dangers in criminal investigations is confirmation bias. Once investigators believe several crimes are connected, they can start interpreting new evidence through that assumption. L would probably do the opposite. He would separate the evidence, start with every confirmed Zodiac crime, then examine what the killer actually knew. What information was public, what information was known only to police, and what information could only have been known by someone who was actually present. That distinction could be critical. If L were hunting the Zodiac, he might not focus entirely on the murders. He'd focus on the killer's ego, because the Zodiac repeatedly contacted the media, and that creates a psychological vulnerability. Think about it. A criminal who wants complete anonymity doesn't need newspapers to publish his letters. He doesn't need to prove he's responsible. He doesn't need to create a mythology around himself. But the Zodiac did. He wanted attention. And attention creates behavior. Behavior creates patterns. And patterns can create mistakes. L would likely try to exploit that. Instead of simply waiting for another murder, he could attempt to manipulate the killer into contacting authorities again. Because every communication is another opportunity. There's one major reason L might still fail. The Zodiac case has an enormous amount of uncertainty. Not every crime attributed to the Zodiac has been definitively proven to be his. Some letters were disputed. Some evidence was lost or incomplete. Some witnesses provided descriptions that were difficult to reconcile. And most importantly, the killer never gave investigators enough information to make identification easy. L might be incredibly intelligent. But intelligence isn't magic. If critical evidence doesn't exist, even the world's greatest detective can't simply invent it. And there's another problem. L is fictional. The real Zodiac investigation involved real police departments, real forensic limitations, and technology that was nowhere near what investigators have today. In the late 1960s, DNA profiling didn't exist in the modern forensic sense. There was no internet, no massive digital databases, no modern facial recognition systems, no ability to instantly compare evidence across thousands of records. Investigators were working with the tools available at the time. This may be the most interesting part. L's greatest weapon isn't physical strength, it's psychological manipulation. He could potentially create a situation where the Zodiac believed he had an opportunity to prove himself smarter than the police, and that could force him to make contact. Imagine the police publicly announcing that they have identified a major contradiction in one of the Zodiac's letters. The killer knows they're wrong, but he can't stand the idea that investigators believe they're smarter than him. So he writes again. He corrects them, and suddenly, the police have another message, another sample, another behavioral clue, another opportunity. L wouldn't necessarily need the Zodiac to confess. He'd need the Zodiac to keep talking. But there's something even more important. Would L actually know who the Zodiac was? Maybe. But identifying someone and proving they committed a crime are two completely different things. L might narrow the suspect list dramatically. He might even become convinced that one particular person was the Zodiac. But without enough evidence, that person could still walk free. And that's one of the most frustrating realities of unsolved crimes. Sometimes investigators may have a strong theory. But a theory isn't a conviction. The evidence has to support it. If we're talking purely about intelligence and investigative strategy, L might have had a real chance. He would likely focus on the Zodiac's communications, psychological profile, inconsistencies, and need for attention. He wouldn't simply chase clues. He'd try to understand the person creating them. And that's exactly what makes the Zodiac case so fascinating. The killer believed he was playing a game against the police. But every game has rules. Every move creates information. Every message reveals something. Every mistake leaves a trace. The real question isn't whether the Zodiac was a genius. It's whether investigators ever had enough information to recognize the pattern. Because somewhere inside decades of evidence, there may have been a clue that could have changed everything. A clue that Elle might have noticed. A clue that everyone else overlooked. And perhaps the most terrifying possibility is this. What if the Zodiac Killer was never truly invisible? What if investigators were simply looking in the wrong direction? So now I want to know, if Elle had been assigned to the Zodiac case in 1969, do you think he would have caught him? Or would the Zodiac have managed to outsmart even Elle?